For all the Jural Assemblies Part 43 Legal Persons. March 8, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. Let's review. There are exactly three branches that make up the American government. 1. The United States, an unincorporated union of soil jurisdiction Republican states which are geographically defined and populated by living people. This is our national jurisdiction. Founded July 1, published July 4, 1776. 2. The United States of America, an unincorporated federation of land and sea international jurisdiction states which are geographically defined and populated by lawful persons on the land and inhabited by legal persons on the sea. This is our international jurisdiction. Founded September 9, 1776. 3. The States of America, an unincorporated confederation of inchoate, non-physical states of states that operate in the global and municipal realm of commerce inhabited by legal persons in the jurisdiction of the air. This is our global jurisdiction. Founded March 1, 1781. This is our government founded before and apart from any federal government. As we also discussed, the constitutions impacted only the States of America portion of our government, and had the effect of power sharing some of the former functions of the States of America with two foreign governments, Britain and the Holy Roman Empire, acting under solemn trust agreements. We also learned that the interface between lawful persons and legal persons is in the international jurisdiction, and that the boundary between lawful persons on the land and legal persons on the sea is an invisible barrier called the bar or the corporate veil. This is in a legal sense, the veil between life and death, as lawful persons are deemed to be alive, and legal persons are deemed to be fictional and dead. We have dealt at some length with the fact that all lawful persons are unincorporated. We have also observed that lawful persons can be corporate though not incorporated. For example, an unincorporated mom and pop business called Bill's Bicycle Shop is corporate but not incorporated. All lawful persons everywhere stand on the living side of the corporate veil and on the land and soil of their respective countries. Now we come to the obverse, the mirror image, of the lawful person, the legal persons inhabiting the international jurisdiction of the sea and the airy realms of the global municipal jurisdiction. Legal persons can be corporate or incorporated, but they are never totally unincorporated. They always derive their personhood from some other entity and have no basis to exist on their own. The prior sentence should be underlined and properly taken note of. Lawful persons and the people they represent have a quality of independent being that legal persons always lack. A legal person does not exist on land, except as a temporary sojourner called an inhabitant, and they are not considered to be part of the population because they are not one of the people. The realm in which they operate, the work they do for the most part obligates them to operate in the reduced capacity of a thing, a dead legal fiction, and it also obligates them to live under either the international jurisdiction of the sea and its laws, or the global jurisdiction of the air and its commercial laws. Land law and national law, soil jurisdiction law, do not apply to legal persons. Statutes, codes, and regulations apply to legal persons. A statute is not a law. It is evidence of a law, and that law is the law of private contract. One becomes a legal person instead of a lawful person by subjecting oneself to a foreign sovereign, by enfranchising oneself to a commercial corporation, by registering oneself as property of a commercial corporation, or by other acts creating a presumption of obligation to act in the capacity of a legal person. A lawful person can only be converted into a legal person as a result of such a private contract. Obviously, this could be an employment contract, as when one accepts a federal civil service job or a job in the U.S. military. It could be an application for political asylum in the United States, or an application for unearned federal welfare benefits, an application for a driver license, a U.S. as opposed to USA passport, or a voter registration. It could in some instances also be a contractual condition by birth, as when someone is born in Puerto Rico or Washington, D.C. Or, such an obligation could arise as the result of incorporating a business as a United States commercial corporation. For insight into the current situation, we are all born as lawful persons on the land and soil of our respective states, and we are supposed to be protected by the most sacred bonds of international trust and treaty and commercial obligation, but a ruse and an excuse has been used to pretend that you are a legal person instead, and resultingly, owed none of the protections of these treaties, trusts, and commercial contracts. The ruse goes back to the Civil War and the federal government practice of calling states of states, commercial corporations, states, as in Confederate states. They even go so far as to call it the war between the states, but no actual states were involved. All the entities involved in the so-called American Civil War, both North and South, were commercial corporations, states of states, and whether they knew it or not, all those engaged in that horrific conflict were acting as legal persons. Those who have undertaken this giant fraud against the people of this country have pretended that those long-vanquished commercial corporations were in fact our states, but they were not. They have also pretended that we, 150 years later, are still combatants acting as legal persons and mercenaries of either the States of America or the Confederate States of America. Either way, it's total baloney, and it's part of what we have to address as actual state assemblies today. As a result of the foregoing false presumptions being held against us at birth, the United States military controlled by the British territorial United States government has made sure that a false record of assumed contract has been created for each and every one of us, the birth certificate. This is the first and primary evidence against us, suggesting that we are from birth United States citizens, or rather, that we were volunteered into that political status by our unwary mothers. However, in order to make this legal, the perpetrators also had to record the actual event of your birth, so that both your actual birthday and the birthdate of the legal person they created in your name appear on the same document, giving evidence of an unconscionable contract. You were only a few days or weeks old when this unlawful conversion of your political status from lawful person to legal person took place. You could not possibly engage in any such assumption of contractual obligation on your own, so your mother was coerced under conditions of non-disclosure and color of law to do it for you. After that, a number of adhesion contracts were foisted off on you, all under color of law, all without full disclosure. You were told that you had to sign up for a Social Security account and get a Social Security number before you could have a job, true only if you were seeking federal employment. You were told that you had to register to vote, but you weren't told that doing so would surrender all your labor and private property rights to the commercial corporation hosting those elections. You were told that you had to similarly register your vehicle and get a driver license, too. And so on and on. These various applications and registrations, all induced under color of law and threat of force as adhesion contracts, are added to the birth certificate information to create evidence that you are voluntarily contracting with these commercial corporations and choosing to live your life as a legal person instead of as a lawful person. Legal persons are dead, legal fiction entities. They have no rights or guarantees. When you, a lawful American state national or American state citizen, go out and cross the bar into the international jurisdiction of the sea, the British monarch is obligated to protect you, but a legal person has no such protections. When you, a lawful American state national or American state citizen, create a commercial corporation to do business for you in the realm of commerce, the Pope is obligated to protect that, too, but a legal person has no such claim upon the Holy Roman Empire. People and their lawful persons are born. Persons are birthed. People have their genesis in physical actuality, in land and soil and water. Persons have their genesis in the realm of thought, office, and employment. People are created by the union of flesh and the mystery of creation. Persons are created by statutes, which are contracts, by applications, registrations, enfranchisements, and so on. People live on the land and soil. Persons sail on the sea and in the air. If you read the federal constitutions, you will see the statute contract creating federal legal persons known as United States citizens and citizens of the United States in Article 1, Sections 2 and 3, respectively. These legal persons are created when someone accepts employment from the federal government, or when one volunteers to serve the federal government in some capacity, like withholding agent or voter. These legal persons, like all other legal persons, are not parties to the federal constitutions and are not able to access their protections and guarantees. Rather, they are subject to the federal constitutions, meaning that they must honor and obey and fulfill and perform the duties and responsibilities that go along with the right to exercise the delegated powers of the people of the land jurisdiction states. You can see now how redefining our lawful persons as legal persons strips us of protections and guarantees and services and assets we are owed and gives us nothing in return. You can also see that as lawful persons operate on the land and soil, and legal persons operate in the sea and air, that redefining you as a legal person results in kidnapping you from your original birthright jurisdiction on the land and soil and trafficking you into a foreign jurisdiction of the law without your knowledge or consent. You can also see that this is happening right under the noses of your own employees and the international trustees, both the Queen and the Pope, who are under obligation to protect you, and that they are excusing both their action and inaction by mistaking on purpose the difference between the legal persons and the confederation of states that took part in the Civil War and the people populating the actual states of this country then and now. The fraud against us has been institutionalized over the past 100 years, and those operating it have grown fat on the theft of our assets, the plundering of our credit, and the sale of our labor. And it all hinges on this unlawful conversion of our lawful persons into legal persons and this false pretense that confederation, states of states, commercial corporations are the same as our physical states of the Union. The Queen, the Pope, the various presidents, the members of Congress, the U.S. military and other parties are all guilty of gross breach of trust, conspiracy against the constitutions, and worse. This has all been practiced against us under color of law and conditions of non-disclosure, fraud, and deceit. The division between lawful persons and legal persons also results in the necessity of two court systems and two completely different sets of law. Our lawful persons are owed American common law, public land law, and organic law. We are now in the process of fully restoring our courts to provide the services we need for ourselves and to enforce the public law, including the constitutions. Legal persons function solely under statutes, codes, and regulations, all forming a type of private law based on private contracts with other legal persons, including commercial corporations. Legal persons are limited to functioning in the jurisdiction of the sea and the air, with the result that such legal fiction entities can only create more legal fiction entities as franchises owned by the same foreign sovereignty that claims ownership of the legal persons. Lawful persons can issue charters to both corporate and incorporated entities. To overcome the legal presumption that you are voluntarily choosing to act and live as a legal person and to regain protections owed to your lawful person and to assert your identity as one of the people and to operate as such, it is necessary to create superior evidence rebutting their evidence to the contrary. Creating the superior evidence that you are choosing to act as a lawful person is the entire purpose of creating and recording the paperwork which the living law firm has developed. Although you might choose to work for the federal government in some capacity during your lifetime, you should be aware that doing so obligates you to operate as a legal person and deprives you of rights and saddles you with duties that you would not have otherwise. It is also important to know that upon severance or retirement from such duties, it is necessary to give your former employers notice that you are leaving federal service and returning to your permanent home and domicile on the land and soil of your state. This should be done in a formal but simple way, just stating the facts, sent to your former federal employer and to the Social Security Administration or Military Pension Office, etc., via registered mail, return receipt requested. This precludes any possible misunderstanding or pretense on their part that you are continuing to serve as a legal person in any quasi-military volunteer status. There should be no onus for federal service or United States citizenship or citizenship of the United States. Quite the contrary. It is a largely thankless and subordinate political status of indentured servitude, sometimes amounting to outright slavery, and involving many duties and responsibilities and sacrifices. Some grave injustices have been inflicted on United States citizens and citizens of the United States. This, too, is part of what needs to be redressed. Not only have we been left uninformed, and deliberately misidentified and defrauded, but our employees have also been left without critical information and abused. Worst of all, our sons and daughters have been sacrificed as cheap mercenaries in wars for profit, while being led to believe that it was all about defending our country. All of this needs to stop, and all of this can be stopped once the actual American people stand up, shake off the dust and the lies, and assume their duty posts as American state nationals and American state citizens, lawful persons owed every jot of the constitutions and treaties. Please hit subscribe, like, share, embed, and get ready for many more Anna von Reitz article videos.